We have a few photographs to start off with. I was watching a little video short of Neil deGrasse Tyson. He was saying if I showed someone a picture of the LRO photographs showing the landing sites on the moon, and you claim that they're fake, he said that will end the discussion right there. There's no sense continuing. But you first have to get to the moon, of course, to be able to have the LRO photographs there. And we're going to just take off with these little photographs here. This is Apollo 11, magazine 44. Right. And these are the particular shots. I just wanted to show this. This is the edge of the window that they're looking out of. And this is when the, of course, LEM has disengaged and is going to deorbit down to the lunar surface. So here are the basic shots on it like this. And we come through. And all of these have been, in fact, photoshopped, because I'm going to just enhance this and show you that it's cut out.
Oh, that's good. Yep.
And the next one is exactly the same. They're cut out, cut and pasted. This is version 3 in the hex file, Photoshop 3, so it's mid-1990s when that version came out. This is Kip Teague was doing this. But that's what they all show. And then we come through, and these will all enhance like this, showing the cutout like that. And then they get one that's an absolute error, and here it is here. It's actually inside the window frame. The window frame goes through here. Kip Teague made a hell of a mistake. There it is, enhanced, cut and pasted in. And like I say, I normally don't modify photos just the way they are. So even with this one, not modified in any way, shape, or form, that's it in its actual thing, and it's showing sitting inside the window just the way it was cut and pasted. So if this is fake because they never went to the moon, then the LRO photographs are fake. And of course, Neil deGrasse Tyson takes it as a compliment, actually, that we are so ignorant, that the technology is so far advanced beyond our capable thought that we are in denial. That is his statement. He takes it as a compliment that we're that stupid.
Okay, well, if he thinks that, then those photographs that you were just showing, those were from the Apollo Lunar Surface Journal. But I'm going to show you some of the same photos taken from March to the moon, just to show you that this hasn't been fooled around with. There's one.
Yep.
There's two.
And it's still inside the window.
See, here it is here. Look, it's inside the window, right in the middle of the window frame. And then let's look at the cutout. Look at this cutout here. Somebody has used scissors and cut this whole thing out, everything. But there's something that is interesting. When you come to this other one, you'll notice something that I thought was quite interesting. Let's follow the cutout on this one. There, look at that. There's your cutouts there, right? Same thing. So then it comes down here, goes around the leg, comes back up, goes around here, comes... Oh, wait a minute. How come it doesn't include this light beam here?
Because it's added.
That's right. And you want me to show you how easy it is to add these little light beams on here? You go like this. Pop this open. See, there's a nice little light bee up there. Just go to effects up here. Now we'll just put one in there. How many do you guys want? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Light rays. Let's have a look here. How about go to mine here and let's see if we can find some light rays here that we can add in. Oh, there's a nice one right there. Let's put one of those in there. There we go. That's just showing you how simple it is just to drop a light beam in there. Blue streaks, whatever you want, we can add it into here. Oh, how about this light effect? Why not? Add it to there too. What the heck? So anyways, guys, it just goes to show you how easy this is to do. Oh, there we are. Now I can add some up here too, right? I can add a little bit. This is how they did it. So we're just giving you a little lowdown on how they did this. And because this was done with film photography, that's what an optical printer was for, so they could add these in on an overlay. And we've shown that many, many times how they did that.
The fact that Neil deGrasse Tyson is a theoretical physicist and he doesn't work with anything factual. He keeps claiming this technology that took us to the moon is so far advanced that we can't understand it, that we're in denial, right? And he takes that as a compliment. Well, why doesn't he get off his damn ass, pick up the phone, call Elon Musk and say, why have you been screwing around for 20 years? I'll come down and show you how it's done. Him and Brian Cox and the bow tie guy, they can all go down there because they have all the answers on how to get through the radiation. They know all about the shielding. They know all about the dimensions that it takes to contain a pressurized craft in space. They know all about the vacuum seals. They know all of the technical communication things to get through the scintillation of the electromagnetic radiation that will literally block the transmission, right? They have all that figured out because he says that we don't understand it, but he does. So get down there and you're going to save Musk a hell of a lot of money because he's been over 20 years, he's been trying to do this. And the best he can do is come up with his new engine, which is what, 1/3 of a F1?
Yep. If that. Gotta have
well, the new methane ones he claims are 500,000 instead of 1.5 million, so 1/3 of the thing. And that'll take us into our next little segue. The comparison between this rocket and the Apollo launches are very similar in a lot of respects. Their time to low Earth orbit is approximately 10 minutes for both. Very, very equal. The first stage of the Starlink was just around 60 kilometers or about 40 miles off the surface when the first stage finished at about 2 minutes and 35 seconds. And Apollo was in the same range within a mile or two, and 2 minutes and 42 seconds was the first stage, right? So only a few seconds apart and only a few miles apart. So they're launching at about the same speed. Both of them had a final burn. Their final burns ended at about 10 minutes when they reached low Earth orbit. The Falcon 9 went to 153 kilometers and then dropped down to 151 kilometers, so you're about 90 miles when it reached its orbital speed, and that's about 10 minutes in. Apollo is doing the same thing. They got up to about 100 miles. They actually burnt the third stage for a couple of minutes to finish off to end up at 115 miles off the surface. So that's the only difference, but it was using the third stage. So the first and second stage of the Falcon 9 is very, very close, within a few seconds of everything happening between an Apollo and the Falcon 9 rocket. Falcon 9 rocket has 9 engines. Apollo has 5. The 9 engines give 4.5 million pounds of thrust to lift it off the same. Apollo is sitting there at 7.5 million pounds of thrust on its 5 engines. Now here's the difference, is the payload. Falcon 9 was lifting 23 Starlink satellites. The 23 satellites is approximately 20 tons of payload. Apollo was 140 tons. So those 9 engines are lifting at the same rate. One of them is fake. One of them could not have the payload. Like if the Falcon 9 is accurate, which it should be in this day and age, you got 4.5 million tons of force lifting 20 tons of payload to 90 miles in 10 minutes. At 7.5 million tons, how do you lift 140 tons?
Hang on, 7.5 million pounds.
Pounds, feet, yes, of thrust. And now you're lifting 140 tons. For the Falcon 9 to lift 140 tons, it would need 63 engines.
Which it didn't have.
No, but it's only lifting 20 tons. But it's got 4.5 million pounds of thrust, lifting 20 tons. And Apollo is lifting 7 times that, with only 3 million more foot-pounds of thrust, but 7 times the force. So one of them is fake, or one of them did not have the tonnage. If you got that in a Falcon 9, it would go up there in less than half the time with the amount of weight that it's lifting compared to a If Apollo is real, if it's lifting that much weight, then this thing should have gone up because it's got, what, 65% of the thrust of an Apollo engine, a rocket, right? Like the liftoff, everything, that 10-minute timeline to orbit, the first stage, the distance, the height, the speed, everything is so close matched to an Apollo rocket. How can one be only lifting 20 tons and the other one lifting 7 times that much?
Very good point.
So one of them is fake.
I wonder which one.
We don't need to guess which one.
No, that's true. We don't.
We see in the comments, people are saying, oh, the technology, the new technology, and it's better in this, and we're going to end up on Mars, and you name it, right?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? The new technology that you're looking at is a liquid burning engine. The engine design is identical for the last 100 years. When you look at the engine design, it's virtually unchanged. The only difference between Apollo and Musk's engine is he's using methane, which gives a little longer duration burn. So you're getting an increased thrust on the engine. That's where you got the increased on the Merlin engines. Brought up the thrust to a claimed 500,000 pounds using methane as well. That's the only difference. But these people are saying everything's so advanced, nothing is compatible with the old technology. Why in the hell can you put a new technology rocket on a launch pad that's designed for old technology rockets? They launched this thing at Cape Canaveral.
Yeah, the same thing.
So it has to match the technology of that launch pad.
You're right, yeah.
And that's the one we did the overview in the other video, right? The recording. That's where it was launched from.
Yeah. People are desperate to have the old technology fail because the new technology is so much better that it's going to go much quicker. It's not. It's the same technology. It's not rocket science, as we keep saying. The technology doesn't matter. It's physics that we're looking at here. How much energy does it take to move a certain weight, a certain height, and a certain distance? The calculations are the same, whether it's Apollo, whether it's Falcon, whether it's Soyuz, it's the same thing.
Well, that's where Neil deGrasse Tyson says we don't understand that.
He has to say that because he has to prove himself right. Doesn't mean to say we're wrong. It means he's got to prove us wrong by denigrating what we're doing. That's not science. That's politics.
Exactly. Well, the thing is he's actually got hundreds of videos out trying to discredit us.
Yeah, of course he is. He has to.
That's his job. But he doesn't say anything of any technical value to back up anything he has to say.
Yeah.
The problem I have with him, there's nothing wrong with being a theoretical physicist and having a very good imagination. However, to sit and call the rest of the population complete idiots if we deny the moon landings. We are factualists. We deal with facts. That's all we do. We don't have the imagination that he has. But he has a responsibility to the public because when he speaks, people believe him.
Yeah.
And that puts him in the role as an educator. And when he's educating a young population into these beliefs for whatever political gains that the U.S. might have that he's supporting, he's doing an absolute detriment to society in general. He must accept that responsibility that he has the power to influence people at the level he can influence people at. And he needs to personally accept that. If he wants to understand it, he needs to look at us. He needs to talk to us and gain an understanding of what reality is, because he does not live in the real world as a theorist. He doesn't have the technical skills or ability to design any of these machines. Absolutely not. It's not in his field. He wasn't trained in it, and he doesn't have to be. And the thing about a theoretical physicist, nobody can argue with him because it's his own imagination. You can't tell him that his imagination is wrong. If he believes in the universe that certain things are the way they are, nobody can go there and look and see that he's right or wrong. That's the biggest thing. He can't compete with us because he hasn't studied it.
Certainly not to the extent that we have.
He hasn't read the documents. He hasn't looked at the photographs. he hasn't looked at the technology that currently is available. He's saying that past technology was so amazing that we just simply don't understand it. Well, where the hell is it? The only place it is now stored is in his imagination.
Well, it should be easy for him to be able to turn around to us and say, this is why it works. Look at this document, look at this illustration, look at this film. That's what he should be able to do. It shouldn't be difficult to make us look idiots if we've got it wrong. But we haven't got it wrong. This is the problem he has. He can't admit that we might be right, because then his whole empire crumbles into bits of dust. If we are so wrong about what we're saying, it should be very simple for him to show us up in about 2 minutes.
Well, he doesn't need to show us up. He needs to go and get these rockets off the ground.
Well, that would help. Yes, that would be good to get them off.
Why doesn't he just pull up to NASA and say, well, what do you need any assistance from Musk or Bezos or anybody else? I'll show you how it's done. I've got all the old technology. I understand it. Here it is. This is how you do it. No, he can't do that. None of them can.
Yeah, they can't.
And like I said, the latest and greatest technology coming out there is 90 miles off the surface for his little Starlink project.
It's very strange, isn't it? It's very strange that continually attack what we're saying without putting in the reality. I mean, what we do is we say, this couldn't happen for these reasons. And we discuss it because you've got the basic data. And when it comes to the photographs, we can look at the photographs and we know what is supposed to happen. And what we see happening is something different from reality. Therefore, if it's different from what reality says it should be, it's a reasonable assumption to make that there is some trickery going on or some fakery going on.
Exactly. And the photographs we just showed, I mean, just copy and pasted the image on.
Yeah. Oh, it's that famous comment by Richard Feynman at the end of the Challenger inquiry. Nature cannot be fooled. You can't fool nature. You can have the best PR, the best advertising, the best commentators you can think of. Nature cannot be fooled.
What do they plan on doing about it to prove us wrong? Where are they going to come up with this technology? Where are they going to come up with a propulsion system that is superior to anything that's out there now?
Good question. I don't know.
How are you going to come up with a spacecraft to travel for any length of time and space? This particular planet is basically a spacecraft when you look at it. And how it is powered and protected is by the combination of our entire solar system. The sun is giving the power.
Yeah, it's the only source of power there is.
We get protection from the other planets around us. For us to build something that can even travel to Mars, we have to provide that power and that protection that the Earth provides us, the power from the sun, and of course, we are a certain distance from the sun to get that power. The farther out you go, the less there's going to be, right? So interplanetary travel is limited to the fact that we would have to reproduce all of that. It has to be on a scale large enough to do that. We simply can't put 3 guys in the size of a Volkswagen Beetle. Basically all the space they have.
Yeah,
it's about the size of that. And expect them to survive and have a happy journey. Like we saw the videos of them having a very happy time on the lunar surface. And if you were in that situation, in that spacesuit, in a diaper, or you're wearing a Texas catheter or whatever else the hell you're doing for 12 days straight, and you're going to stink and smell, you can't bathe, you can't move, you can't do anything during that time period. Yeah, we saw some very happy guys that are very well groomed. And we've shown that throughout the different videos, how Cernan with his professional hairstyle, freshly shaved shots in there, right? None of that happened. They needed to make that appearance happen that space travel was easy. It's not easy.
Yeah, there's the propaganda over the reality.
Yeah, even to low Earth orbit, it's extremely difficult because your life is in danger 100% of the time.
Yep.
From liftoff to low Earth orbit is probably the chances of you even surviving that, the slightest little mistake, you're going to die. like a little O-ring failure. And they've got lots of O-rings. They've got lots of things that needed to be protected from.
But in the magic factory of filmmaking, that's possible. Anything's possible. When it comes to reality, when things need to be done according to the laws of physics, not according to the laws of propaganda, it's very different.
Yeah, it's not just a little different. It's an absolute showstopper because they haven't done anything. Even the Artemis program. What would be the problem of having any of these vehicles manned? How come none of these are being manned? Simple as that.
As we were saying before, with Buzz Aldrin not being able to be in that doorway, this is what Stray Dog found. Now, of course, what this is a egress of the older style LEM. Now, that's the one with the rounded door, but just notice how much trouble he is having getting out that door. Not only that, how could you even be on your knees with this console right up above him in the way, sticking out of there? How is that possible when this is sticking out of there?
Yeah, he's having trouble. He can't get his feet on the ladder there. That particular shot is the LEM control panel above and the round door that turned into a square door.
And there was much less room around the astronaut on the square door than there is here on this circular door.
Yes, and look, his pack is pressed right up against the corner, right there. Well, Aldrin's actually on his knees, but he couldn't even be on his knees.
You can see how far in he is there before he could sit up. And his head right there actually is right in that piece at the front. That's the engine right there. That round piece on the bottom, that's the engine.
Here he is right here, and he's just about in the same position that Aldrin was in, except there's a big difference here. Buzz Aldrin was actually on his knees. He can't even get there. Look, you see the console that's protruding is hitting his backpack on the corner.
Yeah, it is.
And so is the joystick. But the joystick moves up and down. The console does not. So how can Buzz Aldrin be in that door frame when the only thing that's changed from this LEM to the newer version is the door? The door is a square instead of round. The top and the bottom are the same. It's just that the square door is just wider, but it doesn't matter. The height's the same, so he cannot be there. That's the whole point.
Yeah, it is.
The suits that they're wearing, that's about the same one as what LeBlanc was wearing that failed. And that's the one that they had to put the tethers on because if they inflated that, the helmet would just pull his head right off because that's all corrugated rubber, like on the shoulders, the elbows, and whatever. And if that was under pressure, that helmet's going to lift. It's going to pull your head right off. And that's the one that they had to put the tethers on across their chest to hold the arms in. And that's the one that they quit using. The outer cover of that was nothing more than a lab coat, basically, that they were showing there. Can you imagine that they got that built within a couple of years because that's about 1965?
Yeah, this is a little older.
It's interesting. They're showing the inside of the spacesuit, which is the bit you don't normally see with all the tethers, hold the arms down. Because if it's inflated at all, the arms will just go straight up.
But that's not part of Neil Armstrong's suit that's on display.
No, of course not. No.
The only thing you see of Neil Armstrong's suit was a practice suit.
By showing that film, showing what's going on underneath the spacesuit, because that's not discussed normally. We don't very often see people with the photographs of the black and the concertina elbow and shoulder pieces. And you certainly don't see the tethers holding the arms down.
There were 3 companies that were competing for contracts for NASA. That particular company that was building that design of suit, which is the same one LeBlanc was using, they dropped that and they went with the latex company. You don't see that suit again. And this is the one that they claim is inside the other white suit, which it clearly is not. This is a completely different design from a different company, this suit. This is very interesting design that they had come up with. See that metal ring in the middle of his chest? He uses that to attach himself to the control, to the console. There he is there. He's going to attach himself right in there. That armrest down there is to control his arm so he can run the joystick. That was eliminated from the vehicle. They're attached right there You see, but if you didn't know that this was periscope films in a documentary on the Apollo program, I would say it's two guys from Laugh-In, you know, Dick and Dan, getting suited up to do a skit, and they got Ruth Buzzy doing her phone bit, trying to connect them with Nixon, you know. That would be my thing.
But look at all of this hardware that they need, supposedly armrests and everything else that they need to control this thing. Why didn't they just do this from the start? If they're in that flying bedstead, they should have been standing up, practicing landing that.
There's a good shot of how close that engine is behind him.
He's leaning against it.
Well, this is the one where they're putting the PLSSs on, and they've got two straps coming down and some Velcro to hold it in place. And of course, they're just mock-ups because they don't have any weight to them at all. Here he is opening the top hatch. Now look at the problem that they have here. It's going to come down. He has to get down out of the way to open the hatch.
Not as easy as it looks, is it?
And then he's got to get back up on the engine again. And he's trying to get out that hatch with that PLSS on.
It should be a very tight fit, that, with the PLSS on. That top hatch is what, 24 inches in diameter?
Yeah, and it needs to be at least 32. What they're working with is probably 32, but what the other machine that they were having that James Collier wanted to measure was only 24 inches.
That's right, yeah.
This is just one of their simulators.
Now he has to stand up higher to peek out because his head still is not above the roof line yet.
The outer hatch is a foot down from that.
So they figured out this isn't going to work too well. So back to the drawing board.
That doesn't look like they were anywhere prepared to go anywhere or do anything.
This one here always gets me, though, when these guys are trying to go out that door with this console in the way. It's just nuts.
Yeah.
To think he can be on his knees, face up vertically. I mean, you just can't do it, as you can see. And these people will say, oh, yeah, well, it's a square door. Well, it's the same height. The door is just a little wider this way, not up and down, you know. Oh, my God. You can't do it. And by the way, Trevor Weaver and his neighbor, they set this up in the garage with plywood and everything else in there and tried to put backpacks on and do these type of things. And they couldn't do it either. And I mean, this goes to show you they couldn't do it. These guys can't do it. So what do you think's going to happen when they get to the so-called moon? They're not going to be able to do it either. And therefore, Buzz Aldrin is not going to be standing in that doorway on his knees like that with a backpack touching the frame of that door. Not going to happen. I'm sorry.
No, it's not. You're quite right to point that out.
You imagine with the hose connections you have to have and you're laying down on top of them, if you broke one of those connections, you're just dead.
Oh.
I mean, the door is open. You're in a full vacuum.
And there we go with the overcoat. See, there's the overall that goes on there, that white coating that goes on to this suit. In the other suits, they had the red and white and blue hose connectors in the front, which means that that white suit had to be cut to fit those holes and then stitched, which you can see these ones are not.
Well, it's two separate companies, right? That outer white was put on there as just a reflective coating. It wasn't really even a micrometeor coating. I call it about the same as a painter coat, lab coat, whatever you want to call it. That's all it is. It's not like any other design. The biggest problem they had canceled that is because of those rubber connections there. The helmet is just going to expand up and take your head right off. These are mock-up from that company of the PLSSs. And you watch how easily he lifts this off the guy. It has no weight to it at all. It's just a plastic case.
It's what they use for a lot of the preparation, just plastic cases.
There was that one backpack that they were going to use to go to Mars with. It was the same thing. It was just mock-ups in there. But they said it was the real thing. But we looked at it and there's no guts inside of it.
See, now watch, he's going to take this right off and he's actually only got one Velcro attached to it and it's still sitting there. And of course, see how easily he just takes that off of there? There's no weight to that at all. But they didn't have those straps to connect and disconnect when they so-called landed on the moon.
And then you see how small it is in here. Well, let's just find where he has that engine, like he's standing on that engine. I mean, how are they going to get suited up in there in that tiny little space they have?
That's the technology that we don't understand. That's Neil made sure that we just don't understand that. Don't understand that. Don't understand that. Don't understand that. Don't understand that.